What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of Matchday Reloaded, live Panenka Studios. Of course, we're talking about and reflecting upon Newcastle 1, Manchester United 0. In what... This is why I like this show. This is why I like Matchday Reloaded. This is why I like Panenka Studios, because sometimes immediately after the match, like in the minutes and hours that follow after a match, you can be quite reactionary, or it takes a while to really sort of digest and dissect your feelings on certain things. Sometimes your gut instinct is right, sometimes it isn't, and sometimes you just have to sit and you have to really have a think about things. And I've been thinking quite a lot over the last several hours before the show this morning. Sometimes it's got to sleep on it as well. And I woke up this morning, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was just as angry and just as frustrated and just as downbeat as I was last night, to be honest with you. Because I mentioned this on the full-time view, and I'll say it again here. That, for me, was Manchester United's worst performance of the season last night. And don't get me wrong, we've put in some stinkers. We've had a poor season in terms of performances at points, and some of the performances really haven't been pretty. But I felt even throughout the games in which we weren't playing well, and throughout the games in which our performances weren't to the standard they should be, I felt there was an element of effort. Because that's the bare minimum, isn't it, guys, right? The bare minimum is to put in at least a modicum of effort. Try, run, do something. What I saw last night, frankly, apart from maybe a couple of players who can hold their head reasonably high, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, apart from that, it's about it. I saw a group of players that I didn't think genuinely were trying. And we're going to get into individuals, and we're going to get into, obviously, the manager, who's not without blame whatsoever. I thought Erik ten Hag had a stinker in terms of tactics, in terms of substitutions, in terms of setup yesterday. But I saw a group of players that were just really non-fussed by the situation. And I've seen people who say, wow, 3 games, 6 days, are you taking the mick? Newcastle had 13 players injured, including their goalkeeper by the end of the game. If it was roles reversed and we had 13 players injured, including our starting goalkeeper, do you think our players run around to the extent that Newcastle did? I don't think so. And I think that Eddie Howe, when he would have been putting together his team talk last night, probably wouldn't have even have to take him that long. 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, however long it would have taken, but not that long, and just said, look, guys, if you put the work in, if you just run, you'll beat these guys, because they're not going to do that. And they didn't do that. We'll get into individuals, but just off the top, Marcus Rashford, oh my God, he has to be dropped. Has to be dropped in the next game. And to the point that if Erik ten Hag does select Marcus Rashford in the next game, I think his job might be on the line because of it. Because you cannot, in good faith, select Marcus Rashford based on yesterday's performance and yesterday's effort that he put into the game. I was watching it live here in this very chair, and there was a moment in the second half where Livramento skipped past Marcus Rashford and he just stopped. He just stopped, and this is like, 2/3 of the pitch. This is in United's final third, right, which Newcastle are attacking. He just stopped. And he just went, and then he did the fake jog. That. When we all know you're not jogging, we all know you're not running, you're walking, you're barely walking. And he did nothing. Trotted back in, and he did that all throughout the game. And I was sat in this chair, and I got out of it, and I went, he stopped. I went, he's literally just stopped moving. What's going on? And that clip's been going around on social media now because everyone saw it. And that kind of encapsulated Manchester United last night. No effort. No care, no desire, shrugging at the result, shrugging at the performance, going straight down the tunnel to the point that Steve McLaren had to say, turn around and go and applaud the fans because they've had to travel in the freezing cold. I mean, it was minus degrees. Yeah, I think it was like -2 or -3 in Newcastle on the northeast last night. Not that they care. Straight down the tunnel, and just ridiculous, frustrating. And again, what more needs to be said, honestly? What more needs to be said about Manchester United? We've got an hour of it this morning, feels like this evening. I've been stewing on it all night, all morning, and it's just poor. And my big concern now, honestly, my biggest concern at this point is that I worry for Erik ten Hag now, honestly. We did the full-time view last night, and it was kind of the consensus, I think, of a lot of corners actually as well. A lot of callers said, maybe they weren't Erik ten Hag out, maybe some were, all this kind of stuff. But the general sentiment is that I'm worried for him because we saw this. I forget which game it was. It might have actually been when we played Newcastle at Old Trafford in the Carabao Cup, But when the gap between the manager on the touchline and the players on the pitch felt just massive. It felt absolutely massive. And I'm looking at a guy and a group of players, and I don't know if all of them are playing for him anymore. I really don't. And I'm looking at a manager going, is he inspiring these players anymore? Clearly with some he's not, because I don't think they're trying for him anymore. Do they respect him? Some probably do, some don't. But then you get into the territory of, well, if you've got that disconnect with them, why are you picking them? Why are you selecting these certain players? Again, if you pick Marcus Rashford for the next game, that's on you. Why is McTominay lasting the full game? That's on you. When it comes to those substitutions of Rashford and Martial, which everyone knew they needed to come off at half-time. Everyone. After the first half performance they put in, Erik ten Hag screaming at Martial on the touchline. He knew as well. And yet, he didn't make him at half-time. Højlund, he warmed up for the entirety of the half-time break, but he didn't come on to 60 minutes. By the point he brought on Antony and Højlund, it was 60 minutes. They'd just scored. And it was basically game over because we weren't creating nothing throughout the game. And you go and you look at Ten Hag and you go, why did you wait? Why did you wait that long? You knew they weren't going to do anything better. You knew they weren't going to improve. They've offered next to nothing. Rashford was walking through the game. He was playing walking football throughout that entire game, and you waited to 60 minutes anyway. And that's the case where you go, you are not helping yourself. So the next selection, where we've got Chelsea in the week, is going to be critical for him, because if you continue to pick those players, you will die on that sword. And, I think there is a want for you to succeed. We want you to succeed. I want Erik ten Hag to succeed, and I don't want the manager to be sacked, because I just feel that's another win for these players. Yet another manager that they've decided, you know what, he's not inspiring at me anymore. I'm not going to run around. I'm just going to sort of just go through games, wade through games and see what happens. And we get in the same process over and over and over and over and over and over again. But Erik has to help himself too. And it's just incredibly frustrating, as I mentioned, a sheer lack of effort, a lack of desire, and it was just really pathetic. I mean, it's the most lopsided 1-0 you've probably ever seen. I don't know how Newcastle didn't win it by more. It frightens me that we've got Liverpool this month, because I think if this game was at Anfield against Liverpool, I think we would have lost 7-0. And that's not even me being dramatic. We are so fragile and frail in defensive transitions. That situation whereby we lose the ball, most of the time it's not because they've recovered it, it's because we've given it away, because it's a sloppy error. And then suddenly, next thing you know, opposition players got the ball, left, right-hand side or through the middle. It's like 3v3 or 4v3, or even if it's like 3v4, we look so vulnerable. We're backtracking towards goal. Results in the chance just happened to be last night. Newcastle put it over, put it wide, or maybe Onana made a save. But against Liverpool, if Mo Salah's picking up that ball in that situation, defensive transition, we saw what happened last season. And that was meant to be the rubbish Liverpool, by the way. That was the Liverpool that didn't do that well. You think with this new look Liverpool, with a new midfield that can actually run and get around, that we're going to do better than 7-0 at Anfield, realistically? That's my worry. That's my fear. And we got Chelsea on in the week. And again, it's at home. We might get away with it. Chelsea aren't that good. But if we put in the same level of effort we put in last night, are we going to beat anyone? Realistically, anyone? Because that is just unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Now, I know this is going to have to relive the horror and all this kind of stuff, but we do have some match view highlights. I mean, it started off well. Flex's birthday was yesterday. He got a special birthday cake and he had a birthday wish. Unfortunately, it didn't come true.
Get that guy out of here, bro. No. I don't want to see you here, bro. But
Happy birthday, dear KG.
It's not my birthday, bro.
What do you mean?
It's his birthday, bro.
Oh, Timon's birthday. They told me it's Pomba's birthday up there.
Why are you in here, man?
Flex! Happy birthday, my G!
I appreciate you, bro.
Hey.
No.
I didn't need to disrupt the stream, obviously. This is like a Black Street music video and that, but I didn't know that.
I'm just So while they're doing that,
See you later, everyone!
I have to just say, you know what? 3 points.
Hey, bring
Close
on, bro.
my eyes.
I've had enough.
Make one wish if you want. And wish for a Man
chill off.
United 3 points. No injuries. And we can finally win an away game against one of the big teams in terms of hard to beat. That's my wish. There you go.
When you make a wish and you tell everyone,
Oh, it doesn't work.
It comes true.
The opposite.
It comes true.
Sorry, all right.
Okay, alright, come on.
Alright, well, I don't have any bearing over this game.
just
bro,
wait there. Don't worry. You know it could be reverse George in it because
There you
it
go.
might work.
Symmetrical.
Big up expressions every single time. You lot make sure you like and subscribe.
Cannot get out. Do you know what? Just
Put a foot in there.
Just put us out of misery, man. Honestly. There you go.
Go. That's
There you
it.
go.
Yeah.
Just put us out of misery. It's been coming. It's been absolutely disgusting. And it's him again, Anthony Gordon.
That
And,
looked like an offside.
and you know what? It's another well-crafted goal. There you go. That's been coming. They've been...
Absolutely.
I'm
You
not-
know,
I'm
we
not
probably
even-
needed
put us
that.
out of misery.
Yeah. We probably needed that.
Put us out of misery.
Yeah.
Man. That's been... it's an understatement that has been coming.
Yeah.
I'm not even angry. I'm not even
I'm not
going
angry
there,
as well.
like,
But
it's disgusting.
we need, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's over.
they got a chance to get in at
over.
half time. Can you get a
We're
reaction?
done, man.
Can you show some intensity?
We're
Can
done.
you break the the direction of the game? Look at that aimless ball to nobody.
Who did that? Sure.
Luke Shaw. Then we've
Fucking
got bare
idiots.
runners everywhere.
And that's fatigue and everything. That's fucking
look.
shit. That's terrible. Yeah, they deserve
Yeah,
it.
They deserve it. Of course.
Wan-Bissaka, sleep.
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka, way asleep.
Yeah, he's got
there you go.
bored
Has a
in there,
look
not
as
the-
well.
oh, it's
Has a
terrible.
look as
Terrible.
well. Oh,
Terrible.
there you go. Wan-Bissaka looks before. Says Anthony's on my... why are you not alert, bro?
Don't wanna
Why
play.
are you not alert,
It's
fam?
terrible. It's really, really bad.
Shit!
He's offside. He's offside. He's going to be offside. It's going to be offside.
Oh, you're joking! What? No!
Going to be offside.
Just look. Let's look.
He is offside.
No!
Offside.
That was it.
He's offside.
That was the chance
Yeah,
that we
that was
needed.
the chance.
No!
Maguire ended up getting in the way.
No!
He ended up getting in the way.
After all his
He
effort.
could be on.
Nah.
He could be
Hang
on.
on. No, he might
He
be
could
on.
be on.
He might...
He's offside.
No.
Yeah, he's off.
He's offside.
Is he blocking the keeper's view?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he hits him.
he's offside. He's offside.
It hits him as well.
No, it hits
Yeah,
off him.
yeah,
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
hits him as well.
He's off.
Big up to the guys inside UVHQ. And you know what it was towards the end? When that offside goal went in, albeit how briefly it was like, we don't deserve it. Like, what is the game plan there? Get battered for 90 minutes, wait for their goalkeeper to get injured, and them tire out because they didn't make a sub till, was it like the 80th minute or something like that? Bear in mind that they played, in addition to what they played in France in the week, it was something like 120 odd minutes of football, 180 minutes of football. Forget that they said a stat on commentary. And they only made like one substitution or a couple of substitutions. And our hope is to sort of scrap an equaliser when we couldn't be bothered to participate in the game. Really, is that what we're doing? Is that the game plan? Because I don't know what the game plan was yesterday at all. And I go back into the territory of a bit like under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a bit like under Ralf Rangnick, when I'm watching that and I'm going, that cannot be how, you know, what you've worked on in the week. That cannot be the game plan here. What is the game plan? Because if that is the game plan, then oh my goodness me, what is the manager doing? If that isn't the game plan, why can't the players execute it? Why can't they be bothered to execute it? Right? What either situation is just as bad as the other. And it was just such a poor watch, such a poor performance. And as I said earlier on, Newcastle 1-0. I mean, it's the most lopsided, flattering 1-0 you've probably ever seen in your life. It doesn't reflect the game at all. And that's a Newcastle with 13 players out injured. And that's why also, you know, Erik ten Hag was big on the injuries, and even I've said here on the channel about the injuries, getting players back, consistency, all that kind of stuff. Newcastle laughed in the face of that logic yesterday. They got 13 players out. Doesn't stop you running. Doesn't stop you working. And that's why earlier on the season, remember when we were after the Bayern game and he played Hannibal against Burnley and I think against someone else? And I remember coming on shows like this and saying, Hannibal, he's got to play more often. And I said, why? I said, look at these running stats. They were the highest running stats in the league and some of the highest running stats since Ten Hag arrived at the club. And I remember some of the reaction at the time was, oh, running merchant, oh, stat merchant, this, that, and the other. Is that what you really want? That's like the lowest level. That's like the baseline level. Yeah, because last night they couldn't even do that. And again, that's the worrying thing too. Is Erik ten Hag in that territory now, a bit like Jose was in his final days at United, whereby you've just got to start people that are willing to run for you, that are willing to sort of just get around the pitch, because the senior players aren't bothered to do that. And we're back into that territory of actually, if you play some of the younger players, maybe they've not got the same quality as some of the senior players, but at least they're trying. At least they're trying. Because I saw, again, a bunch of players that really did not try last night, and that is just completely unacceptable. Now, a couple of manager quotes after the game. Erik ten Hag said, quote, "We started the game good with a chance for Garnacho, but after that we have to give credit to Newcastle because they played better than us." When asked about Marcus Rashford, Erik ten Hag said, quote, "He works hard, he will get back, he will recover and gets all of our support." Look, I mean, with the Rashford thing, that I really do think that is... Erik ten Hag's a stubborn man, and he's a stubborn manager, and he doesn't like to make changes, and he likes to back his players, and I get it. I really do. But as I said at the beginning of the show, that team selection in the week against Chelsea, if that has Marcus Rashford in the starting lineup, he might be signing his own termination papers. I really do. I really do think that, because there's just no way. There is no way he can select him. If he selects him, then you're either, I don't know, foolish, deluded, you know, I don't know. Because you cannot justify that. You cannot justify selecting him in the week against Chelsea. You just can't. Harry Maguire said after the game, "It's been a tough week with 3 away days in 6 days. To be fair, in the first half, we looked like we played our 3rd away day in 6 days. The tempo wasn't there. The intensity wasn't there. They were a lot better than us. We grew into the game, but we didn't have enough in the end." Even with that, I'm like, just enough with the away bullshit. Realistically, we were just rubbish. It wasn't tiredness or fatigue or anything like that. Because again, this is why you can't come out after the game and be like, wow, you know, it's been a taxing week. We've had a lot of games away from home with 3 in, 6 days. Newcastle got 13 players out injured. They're basically playing the same 11. Their bench is full of kids and 3 goalkeepers. They're not tired. They're running around. So why are we either, 1, not putting the effort in, or 2, feeling sorry for ourselves against a team that are still running, still going? I mean, I remember seeing the preview of Matty Renton and Flex for the game, and Matty Renton was going, well, we've got to start fast because we'll fade off come 70th minute. They didn't fade off. But we did. We did. Maguire was asked about Rashford as well. He said, Marcus had an unbelievable season last season. This season, it hasn't clicked for him. He's working hard. Everyone in that dressing room knows what he's about. When it comes to being winless against the top 6, Maguire said, quote, "It's not a nice stat to have. We knew it was a big chance to prove ourselves. We know the intensity they play at. We didn't do enough, and we'll look to get 3 points in the week. We've kept a lot of clean sheets in the Premier League. We've conceded a few in the Champions League that we're disappointed with. We've got a lot of good defenders at the club." Ten Hag also said after the game, "We have to give credit to Newcastle. They played better than us tonight. As I mentioned, we started well. We had a chance with Garnacho, but after that, they were better. For a long period, they were better than us, and we went 1-0 down. To be fair, at the end of the game, we came back and had some good opportunities. Reguilon, very good chance, the offside goal. So yes, in the end, we fought back, but we need to do this over the whole game." I mean, to be honest, with like that quote, I would say, Eric, you're reaching. You're really reaching. I did not see Man United come back into the game last night. I mean, we got a bit more confident when their goalkeeper popped his shoulders out. Like, again, that was about it. Like, I wouldn't say we grew into the game at all. We were just poor. Ten Hag also said, "You could say we defended quite well," referring to statistics, "but I prefer for us to stay further away from our goal. I prefer to us to have more of the ball and play in their half. We had our moments where we could make good movements, but it was not enough. We need to be more dominant in the game." And as I mentioned after the game, this was reported by Rob Dawson, Steve McLaren waited at the tunnel to order some Man United players to go back out and clap the travelling fans because I guess they couldn't be bothered, which just sums up Manchester United. Couldn't be bothered at all. Let's get some more reaction. Here are Flex's thoughts on his birthday after the game yesterday.
United, thank you. Thank you for ruining my birthday. Didn't think we was going to win anyway, to be honest. I just done the false hope because it's my birthday. Newcastle United 1, Man United 0. Where do I start? Pathetic performance. Same old story in the big games away from home against the decent sides, the good sides. Like I said on the match view towards the end, it clicks, and it's not about going crazy in this moment and shouting and cussing and swearing and just like, because that was the sort of Manchester United performance in this type of game that I expected to see deep down. Obviously, I know I've done the birthday thing saying I think we're going to win, but deep down, that's what I was afraid of happening because it's in there. And we said this is the acid test. These are the games that we're going to find out about ourselves. And today, we saw players who just could not match the intensity of Newcastle United. It was just absolutely pathetic. You got to big up Newcastle United because there's no excuses. They've just come from PSG, running their asses off, got robbed in the last second, got no subs. Had to put 3 goalkeepers on the bench in their last game. 3 goalkeepers. I don't even think that's ever been done before. That's how threadbare they are. So I don't give a crap about no injuries and player fatigue and all of that because Newcastle are managing to play at high intensity at all times. Why? Because their manager is demanding that from them and all the players are buying in. There was a clip during the game, BT have TNT have highlighted it, and it's not just a weighing and piling on Man United and the negativity. It's Ten Hag going mad at Martial going back, arms up. Like, they're not doing it. On Ten Hag and some of his decisions and his part in this, I said it in the match view, it's like, well, you brought Amrabat in, he's not starting. You brought Anthony, he's not starting. You brought Højlund, he's not starting. So the players that you've brought to try and change us and change our dynamic, you're not even playing them. So that's an issue. He's not getting a response from these players. We saw players not running. We couldn't get a hold of the ball. We weren't showing for each other. We were celebrating corners. It was absolutely pathetic, a disgusting performance. One that should have been about 5-6-0, could have easily have been, you know? And it's exactly the same type of performance we had last year at Newcastle United. It's the same thing. I mean, that day it was 2-0 and it felt like a 5-0. It was exactly the same thing, you know? And I'm just looking at players and their team that are just far superior to us in attitude, in application, in conditioning. Can you say skill level and ability? That's probably the most questionable bit. Some players, you're like, well, you know, how much better is some of their players versus us? How much better is Almiron versus Rashford? How much better is, you know, Garnacho than Gordon? You know, how much better is Lewis Miley, who's a 17-year-old kid who's just come in, than, you know, Kobbie Mainoo, who's just come in? How much better is Bruno Guimaraes than Bruno Fernandes? These are all the matchups. How much better is Joe Linton, who used to be a striker, who is now one of the best sixers in the league? How much better is Eden McTominay? The answer to that one is a lot better, to be fair. But you get my gist. Do you get my gist? So it isn't really just about ability, even though you can say those players shade it. It's up here. It's up here and it's in here. The innate desire to work hard and play with intensity just isn't there. And yeah, we'll get past the Fulham at the Cottage just about. Yeah, we got past the Everton, who really didn't really make it that uncomfortable for us, really. Okay, Galatasaray, we saw what happened there. We couldn't get through. It was 3-1 up. Okay, the keeper messes it up. But as soon as there's a team like a Newcastle away, like a Villa away, like a Spurs away, like a Arsenal away, like a Liverpool away, like a Man City away, all these teams who are far superior than us in every aspect, we look like garbage against them, and that is the truth.
Fucking nearly broke my microphone. So angry. They broke my microphone. I put a poll in the chat, and we are going to have to talk about Marcus Rashford more in depth here. And the poll in the chat is, will Ten Hag start Rashford versus Chelsea? Because if I was voting in that poll at the moment, what would I think? I genuinely don't know. I really hope that he doesn't, honestly. What's my gut telling me? I think he will. And I just don't know. And again, if he does do that, then I would say then you're lost. You're absolutely lost because he cannot play. He cannot start. I mean, I get it, and this has been a whole season thing as well with Rashford. At no point has he shown glimpses or flashes. I mean, he scored against Arsenal, I remember, at the Emirates, and that was the last game where I thought, you know what, actually, Rashford showed a little bit here. That was pretty good. But it feels like that performance last night is the perfect, I think, encapsulation of him the season before Ten Hag arrived under Ollie and then Ralph Rangnick. I remember those clips going around then at the time when it was the sort of the jog. And on Friday, when we did the press conference and we did the late night news, I remember having this conversation with you guys going, okay, what's my starting lineup going to look like? What do I think it should be? And definitely Garnacho on the left. I said Højlund or Martial up front because I get the logic behind that one. You would say, well, Højlund started against Galatasaray, but he's done well in the Champions League, hasn't scored in the Prem. Martial started against Everton and he did okay. He scored a goal, won a penalty, so there's some kind of logic behind that one. But the right-hand side is really interesting, isn't it? Because Anthony played against Galatasaray, and I'm not the biggest Anthony fan. I still think the jury's way out on him, and we've overpaid, and I still, to be honest with you, really doubt his quality and whether he's actually good enough. We've had this conversation a lot about Anthony. But it says a lot, doesn't it, about Rashford's form this season when you're going, Anthony should start because he played against Galatasaray and he showed more than Rashford. Oh, was he brilliant that game? No. He wasn't brilliant in that game. He just showed a little bit of something. He took a player on, did the defensive work. I mean, there's a lot of talk yesterday about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And Wan-Bissaka struggled. I saw the guys in the studio say, Wan-Bissaka didn't play well. He struggled. I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for him because on the right-hand side is constantly 2v1 situations. Why? Because the player in front of him is doing nothing. Is not supporting him, is doing nothing at all. And he must be thinking, well, I know if Anthony's playing, he's going to support me. Even if he's not playing well, he's going to come back and try and do the defensive work. So just the clip alone where Rashford gets skinned by Livramento when he's jogging, and that's not the first time in that game. I'd be, if I'm managing the side, which I'm not, obviously, I'd be like, right, Rashford, not only are you off, but you're not starting the next game. But I think I'd be naive to sit here and be like, there's absolutely no way Rashford starts against Chelsea. Because Ten Hag showed that over and over again. And that is why, when you get into this territory, when you go, well, Eric, then that's on you. You are not helping yourself in this situation. And I want the manager to succeed. I'm still of the point of I don't think we should get rid of him because it's cyclical. And I don't want to give these players, honestly, I really don't. I don't want to give these players the out of once again just sort of throwing their toys out the pram, just down in the tools and being like, I don't like the manager anymore. He can go. Get rid of him. Don't like him. He's fallen out of a couple of players, some of which are my friends, and I don't like that. So I'm just not going to play anymore. You know, and that's just not Marcus Rashford there. That's a couple of players in that team. You can see it. It's clear to see. There is a disconnect. And I don't want to give them the satisfaction of being like, once again, well, when it came really down to it, and it was the players versus the coach, we got rid of the coach again. And a new guy might come in, and maybe there would be a new manager bounce, maybe, right? If it's an interim or it's permanent, and we're like, the good feeling's back, and then we'll do great. And then once again, what happens? 18 months' time, a couple of years' time, we're sat on this show, maybe a different Panenka Studios, but we're having the same conversation again of, suddenly this manager, he can't inspire these players. He could last season, but this time he can't. What's going on? Why aren't they trying? I mean, literally, it's copy and paste from like 2 years ago. Yesterday's performance, you could have picked up and put in the Ralph Rangnick Ollie era. And again, that's on Ten Hag. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm also saying, well, clearly the problem is deeper rooted then, because once again, the same players, they're doing the same things. And Ten Hag, as we're going to get onto him after KG's clip, he's not absolved of the blame. A lot of the stuff he's doing isn't working right now. But is that justification of just going, well, let's do patchwork, let's get rid of the coach again, keep these players, let's just make these players happy, and then they'll sort it out. It's so disappointing, isn't it? It's so disappointing, and it's the same cycle. And I just feel like this is a key, almost critical moment in not to do the same thing over and over again, break the cycle and send a message to some of these players going, if you're going to try and force us into a situation where it's the coach or you're going instead of the coach. But we've been down this path and we realistically, we know where it's going. We all know where it's going. And it's ridiculous. Speaking of KG, here's his reaction after the game.
Cool. We're here, man. This is what we come to realize, come to understand. You know, at the end of games, I kind of look at myself, and you could probably use the same picture, the same facial expression, the same emotion, and it's just one of disappointment, to be honest. Like, I'm not like, I enjoy the games that we win, the games that we expect to lose now. It's clear. And you know what? I think the rawness for Man United fans, or just for us, or for me, for instance, is I have to look at Newcastle as a team that we've been neck and neck with. For instance, we had that game against them in the Carabao Cup, and in that game we rolled our luck at times, but then we edged it, and that's why we got to lift up the cup. But ever since then, we played Newcastle, and we've been an embarrassment each and every single time. They keep getting revenge. They keep being better than us over and over again. And you have to ask yourself the question, well, what is this? Because these Newcastle players are not the greatest players in the world. Newcastle project, they're at the beginning stage. They're at like literally, you know when Man City had Joe, that kind of early Robinho, they're early in their ascendancy, and this is what's happening already. Again, this is like, we've been on this journey before with City, with a team that gets the takeover and can get dangerous. But right now, what's happening on the pitches, we're being beaten. Tactically, we're being outplayed. Tactically, we had a team that wants it more. We had a team that 1 second balls. They were just, everything they wanted to do was better than us today. Literally, we were, the scoreline doesn't reflect how that game went today. The scoreline doesn't reflect, so you can't even be mad. You know, you can't be mad, but I am concerned. That's the main thing I will say, that I'm not mad, but I'm concerned because you talk about signings, you talk about players, and my thing is, now we can't make excuses. How many times we're going to say when this player gets back, when he returns? I'd say when Amrabat gets in, Amrabat's in, still isn't the way what we want. We said, when Kobbie Mainoo gets in, still not what we want. When Wan-Bissaka gets back, Wan-Bissaka's in, still not what we want. When Shaw gets back, Shaw's in, still not what we want. It's getting ridiculous. Now we're going to do the next one. When Casemiro gets back, Casemiro gets in, probably still not what we want. We're going to wait for Mount. Come on, guys. It's actually like, it's beyond boring now. It's beyond boring because my thing is, I will know like another team will play Newcastle and there'll be fight. And that's what's missing sometimes. Fight and ability and skill and concentration, and even just like being comfortable, being sure in yourself on the ball. I'm not seeing things to build with. I'm not seeing a team that, I'm like, this is what we're going to be next. This is the journey. But I'm just sitting tight. I'm holding it down, but my manager just has to get busy. He has to get more. He has to get a tune out of these guys. Again, we can talk about structure, we can talk about all this stuff, but we need a tune. We don't get to say, hey, we're not going to try now until the window opens again. Again, I understand what this team is. I understand, I can tell you, yep, we're a team in transition. But a team in transition still has to give 110%, and that's what we're missing. I don't know the plan, It's like we're just looking after, it's like personality FC, really. We're just trying to look after all these different personalities, and it's not cohesive. There's no cohesiveness in what we're trying to build right now. Again, we've forced Rashford out onto the right-hand side to try and get something from Rashford because we've got Garnacho. Now, Rashford's body language is poor. It is. It's poor. It's not good enough. He's not helping out. He's not doing enough. Another player that I love, Wan-Bissaka, love that player. One of my favorite players. But let's have it right today. Wan-Bissaka got cooked, sauteed, boiled, air fried, all of the things. Any different style of cooking, that's what Wan-Bissaka got done today by Gordon.
Big up KG inside UVHQ. This is a fun one from Hawk. Says, this is pre-recorded, you frauds. It is 9:35 on Sunday, December 3rd. I mean, if you thought that KG was live inside UVHQ, followed by Flex, and actually when I did the match view highlights as well, I mean, did you assume that this was going to be, they were live in there? Quick, go now. Do what you did last night again. What? I've got to go live. go live in there. Wait, okay, we've gone through this. Rehearse. We're gonna pretend we just scored, but Maguire was offside. Now, quick, go, and 3, 2, go now, quick. KG sat there the whole time. He's been there all night. Bless him. He's then there all night. People assume that people go home after the match views and they record the fan views. They have to stay there all night. There's a little camping trip inside UVHQ, and we wake up early in the morning, and I go now. Quick, now. Why? Match, go now. I mean, it's kind of the show. I mean, is that the reaction as well when, like, say you're watching Sky Sports News at the same time? This is what Erik ten Hag said after the game. That's not live. Bullshit. Don't worry about it. What? Nevertheless, what are people saying in the chat at the moment? Joe H says, these players will sack Erik ten Hag and the next manager. Hone says, big up Sancho and Ronaldo. What else are people saying? Steve-O says, players are a joke. What else? Real Killer says, Ten Hag is a joke. Berserker says, just give him some windows to build a team, guys. There isn't any other way at the moment. I think when it comes to Ten Hag as well, this is the thing. He is, I back the manager, but as I said earlier on, he's not helping himself with some of his decisions, with his substitutions, with his tactics. I think if you look at the recruitment, which he's heavily involved in, it's not working. I mean, I was talking to KG on the phone yesterday as he was driving back home. That was live. That happened in real time. And we were talking about his signings. And like the majority of his signings are injured or on the bench. It's insane. I mean, talk about the midfielders. Yes, there's a lot of talk about McTominay. Oh, why is he still on the pitch? But Eriksen, free transfer, injured. Casemiro, what was that, 70 million, injured. Mason Mount, 60 million, injured. Left back, Tramalasia, he signed him, injured. Lissandro Martinez, centre back, injured. Anthony, on the bench. Højlund started the game on the bench. I mean, it's crazy. Like, it feels like every player he signed near enough either wasn't playing yesterday or is injured or hasn't really worked out. That's pretty damning. That's really damning stuff. And I've seen people kind of flip-flop with this as well, the recruitment issue, by going, this is why he needs to be back on the club. As if the club's got a good track record when it comes to recruitment either, right? Like, the club is, I mean, the club's track record with recruitment is shocking over the last decade. So I'm not like, give it to the club, because I don't trust these people in charge at the club anyway to make good decisions about that. But clearly, and this is, I guess, one of the positives of Ineos coming in, that whole thing needs to be overhauled. That whole thing needs to be taken out of the hands of the people that it's in at the moment. That's Murto, that's Ten Hag, that's the recruitment, I guess, division at United, his agent, all of it, that needs to be taken away from all of them because they're not doing it properly. Absolutely, they're not doing it properly and they're not qualified or good enough to do it at all. And with Ten Hag, as I mentioned, I worry for him because I feel like he's lost players at this point. I feel like there's a disconnect between him and certain players. I feel like some aren't trying for him at this point, and yet he's still picking players that he probably knows aren't trying for him anymore. And that's a concern because you're saying, well, then you're falling on your sword there. And do you really want to get out of this situation? Because it gets to the point where it gets so bad, you just got to start picking people that are going to run for you. You got to start picking people that are going to try. And you cannot say that every player on that pitch last night tried for you because they didn't. They just didn't. That was it. Man Lutata says, Owen, either you Erik ten Hag in or out, no cover-ups. This is also a strange one because you can be on the record several times going, I don't get rid of the manager. I don't think we should sack the manager. And then people go, are you Erik ten Hag in or out? I'm still of the mindset. I've always been of this mindset still. And even as bad as it will get, don't get rid of the manager because I don't want these players to win. I don't want these players to once again throw another manager under the bus. And I feel like my concern is that process has already started. And that process, that bridge has already been crossed with a couple of them. And it does feel like, that it's, I don't know, we're on that path. We can feel it. As a United fan, you can feel it. after last night, you could feel it, couldn't you? Of just, here we go again. And that's not even like, it's not even because necessarily we lost. Oh, you're reacting because I was here for the last couple of weeks going, 5 wins out of 6, this, that, and the other. And you can't take that away. You can't. But it was the manner of it. Not that I'd have been content if we lost, but if we lost last night, but we put in a shift, we played well, we missed chances, a bit like how sometimes we've lost in the Champions League this season, or a couple of the games that we've lost this season, but particularly some of those Champions League ones where you go, actually, you know what? We did all right. We did okay. Individual errors, individual mistakes, that needs to be cut out, but there's positives to take from that performance. The reason I think last night was so much of a gut punch is because you looked at the performance and you looked at the body language of the players and you went, something is really wrong here. Something is really bad because they've stopped. They've stopped and they've given up. And that is really worrying. If you're going to do that as well after 5 wins out of 6 in the Premier League, that's awful. It was awful. There's no other way to put it. Let's get some more reaction, this time from Marcel. I mean, Marcel's getting powers on the match for you, and he's still finding some positivity. Here are his thoughts.
It was shocking, isn't it? Obviously, it was shocking. We didn't play well. We suffered the whole game and only had a few counter-attacking moments to show for it. But I'm still, Ten Hag in. I'm still believing in the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still positive about, the direction that we're going.
How you still, okay, so this is it. And last week I was accused of being a bully and I thought that was ridiculous.
Crazy,
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
It is what it is. How come you're still positive and you're still you said you can see a process, you can see stuff. What are you seeing?
The build-up and then the turnovers. So I'm seeing in the forward line, I'm seeing in certain games when we have the players, when you have Rashford when he's on form, or Anthony when he's playing well on the right-hand side, when you have Garnacho on the left, when you have Højlund, because you can't have Martial out there, you saw the pressing's not there with him, when you have Bruno behind Højlund, when you have a Mason Mount behind Højlund as well, whether it's both of them together or just the one. So if it's...
Is this theory that you're talking about though? Because when have you seen this season? Is this like a theoretical what you expect to want it to?
Well, Ten Hag's mentioned about our turnovers this season, and he's mentioned us being the best in the league with that. You see it in moments against Arsenal, especially against Arsenal. I think there was a few turnovers there and opportunities from these turnovers. There's been games where it's happened for me.
But when you talk, so you're saying. So it's not mostly about the result then. Are you just saying that, so you're not really, because those are the losses, by the way, that you mentioned.
Yeah, so for me, it's about performance right now, not the result. The performance has to be there for in the team first. And in terms of turnovers in the forward line, there's performance there that wasn't there before. In terms of build-up, there's performance there that wasn't there before. Yes, the results haven't come, but for me, the results are not there because he doesn't have all the for me, he needs 30 of his players. Do you know what I mean? Like all the other managers right now that you're seeing performance and results, Arsenal Football Club, Man City, Aston Villa. Well, yeah, but Newcastle to a degree, but they're close to us. When I'm talking about the creme de la creme in the league, the ones that are winning consistently back-to-back games, have the mentality, have the resolve to win games, have structure, clear build-up kind of patterns and everything, they have a lot of players that the manager's brought in himself. He's had a long time to work with his players.
So just some little pushback and stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about bringing in certain players.
Yeah.
The players that he's brought in, Amrabat on the bench, Anthony on the bench. Who else did he bring in that he's had on? Reguilon on the bench. Mason Mount out.
Yeah.
But then that part that's not making any sense.
Yeah, I mean Amrabat. He can only play. So I think Ten Hag has got an issue in terms of the style of football that he's trying to.
Højlund on the bench.
Yeah, but so the 3-1-6 structure, I think there's a bit of issue with that. Playing in the Premier League with just one DM, we're getting open. You saw it in the first 2 games. Casemiro's not used to that. We needed a proper 6 to hold that defensive line for us, and you can see Amrabat's that kind of player that can do it. Didn't get a pre-season, has been injured. When has he had a last 90? And quite frankly, I think he was all right against City. When he came off, that was when the floodgates opened. You got McTominay in there, expected to do the holding line 6 role, and it wasn't working. Then you got Kobbie Mainoo, an 18-year-old, the other one that's quite frankly better than Amrabat at doing it, but is 18, hasn't played many minutes for the club. So we haven't got a 6. So a midfield is still the issue within the club.
But he's buying these, a lot of the signings that we bought in, he's the one that sanctions them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's the part for me that's the confusion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying his talent ID. You know, Anthony, is he good enough for the league? Malasia's not been here, unfortunately. Injury. Martinez, at times, people are saying if he's good enough.
I want to focus on the midfield. What I want to do with you just now, just so we can really understand what's going on. The main focus is midfield. This season, he's brought in 2 players, Mount and Amrabat. Have we gone forward as a midfielder, or have we regressed? Who's that on?
So for me, Mason Mount, it's on Ten Hag in terms of, I think that 3-1-6 is not looking like it's working right now. But has he had 5, 6, 7 games of Kobbie Mainoo or Amrabat and 2 8s? That if we're talking about the players that he's purchased, Mason Mount and Bruno, have we had 5 or 6 games of that where they can understand and help complement each other and make sure that this is not a basketball match? Know when to set up and shut up shop, and know when to go forward.
Do you get more control of the midfield with a midfielder, Kobbie, Mason Mount, and Bruno though? In your just theoretical opinion at the moment, because we tried Bruno and Mason before, and I don't know if it's worked.
So yeah, it had Casemiro back. You're talking about maybe the first 2 games of the season. It had Casemiro, behind them, and then when we went into the Arsenal game, I think Ten Hag went to maybe a 3-2-5 a little bit. But had Eriksen in there for the more control and the sensible passing. I just feel like it needs more games. I really do.
Big up to Marcel and KG inside UVHQ. with the super chat here says total shots against United in the last 6 games, 100 plus, insane. Must be the performances Marcel are referring to. I did see that stat talking about the shots we faced, and this was something that people brought up in the full-time view. I think it was Show, big up Show, who talked about this, and I think it is a good point, saying that was yesterday's performance totally different from, say, Everton and Galatasaray last week, which was actually, if we were playing a team that was clinical or just a step up in quality, then that performance yesterday could have happened against Everton or Galatasaray. Realistically, it's been the same. And that's why I say I worry about facing Liverpool at Anfield, because I do think that when we play these teams of a high level of quality, they'll just punish us. But it's more, for me, the biggest thing, and I know I've said it a million times, and apologies if I'm repeating myself this morning, but it was just the lack of effort. It was the lack of effort and the lack of just pure desire to get around the pitch or do anything yesterday that is so alarming. I mean, again, I go back to the manager and I say, well, it's clear to see, like, games are turning into basketball matches. We concede so many chances. We're so vulnerable in defensive transition. When do you have to get to the point where you say, look, you've abandoned your principles to a point anyway, because these players can't do what you want them to do ideally. So when do you have to get into the territory of going, actually, you know what? Let's change the tactics. Let's pack out the midfield. Let's be defensive away from home. Let's shut up shop, because we just do the same thing every game. We just do the same thing every game that you can get by against smaller teams. When you play big teams, we know this team doesn't have the effort or commitment, but we're still going to play the same, and we're just going to lose. Like, when does it get to the point where, and I'm not saying, like, again, I remember Jose's last game against Liverpool at Anfield. Remember that when he had like back 7 or something at the time? It was crazy. I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying, like, just, again, get into the territory of play people that are running for you, play people that are trying, pack out the midfield. And it's horrible being Man United going, you've got to go to Newcastle, play for a draw or whatever, but you can't play like that, because there's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And I don't know. Now, obviously, yesterday might have been a breaking point for some people. It was for Raf after the game, who said that he's had enough of the United manager. Take a look at what he said.
I'm over it now. I've tried, we've made excuses over and over again, but there's no progression. All we're doing right now is going backwards. And to start off with, I wanted to read some things out to you.
Let's go.
To everyone. This is what Ten Hag said after the game. We had a tough first half, and we said at half-time, we are pleased to stay in the game at 0-0. But in the second half, we didn't. He went on to say, I will talk with my team on the performance. We stayed in the game at the end. We had some good chances. We scored a goal, but it was offside, so it could have been a draw. When he was asked about Rashford's form, he said he will talk to him and not with the media. When he said about putting things right, he said this team is resilient, we'll stick to the plan and we'll keep going. And in regards to the fixture schedule, he said this week it was not in our advantage, but we'll take it as it is. When on earth is Ten Hag going to say, we are not doing well, we're getting worse? Every time we're on the right
Should a manager say that though?
100%. You've got to be honest. You've got to be honest. I'm done with the excuses. I heard you say it. We're waiting for who to come back into the team. A number of players. Luke Shaw was one of them. Now people are talking about Martinez coming back into the team. When people are talking about Maino coming in, we were waiting for Amrabat to get his signing down. We're waiting for Højlund to come into the team. When on earth are we going to see the progress? We can't blame it on injuries anymore. Because the players that he's signed are fit. They're fit. A lot of them are on the bench. Our bench was strong today, so they're out of form. When is he going to get Rashford playing at his best? When is it that we're going to see the players who we know can be good playing well? Because today it wasn't on one player. I said it during the stream. Midweek, we can blame Onana. There's some other games where we can blame individuals. This team today, the whole thing was wrong.
Shocking performance.
And for that reason, you have to blame the manager. And I'm sorry, KG. I've tried to defend Ten Hag, but now I'm Ten Hag out. I am genuinely I'm Ten Hag out now. Because I'm not seeing progress. What would keep me in? Let me cook. What would keep me in is if maybe I was seeing some progress. It's not early. It's not early.
Don't you think, like, is this not a reaction? Is this not too reactionary right now in terms of the journey that the manager's supposed to be going on, and he's only been there 18 months?
KG, 18 months is enough time for me to see progress. I'm not seeing any progress. We're going backwards. We are going backwards. Eddie Howe, how long has he been at Newcastle? We're seeing progress. And they haven't signed stars. And all the players we've signed has been authorised by Ten Hag. So what's their excuse now? We can't keep blaming the Glazers. We can't keep blaming. I just want better from the team. And for some reason today, the team are not playing at 100%. Whose job is it to get the team to play 100%? It's the manager's job.
But then it's that conveyor belt, though. You're talking, when you say Ten Hag out, that means you want to start that process again. You want to start that project again, bro.
The manager was brought in to implement a style of play and to get us results. Right now, he's doing neither. We're getting results against Fulham. Great. But winning against, who else did we beat recently? Everton. These are teams in the second half of the table and teams that should be in the second half of the table. Why are we not getting at least a point against Arsenal, Tottenham, City, Newcastle, and a few others?
There's some damning, don't get me wrong, there's some damning things. I think someone said something about we haven't won away from home in a big game, in the top 6 game.
Over 2 years.
Since Jesse Lingard or something stupid like that.
Yeah. And for that, and how long are we going to blame the players for? I've done it.
You have to blame the players as well, though.
And I've been blaming the players.
Yeah.
But there's a limit. And right now, I don't see a way back for Ten Hag. I dread the idea of starting the process again with a new manager. I do honestly dread that. But how long do we go for? I need to see something. And it looks like he's fighting with the players as well. If they were all together, all on the same page, I can say, all right, cool, maybe something will come. But right now, they're fighting. We saw him fighting with Martial. He's falling out with Varane. He's falling out with Sancho and other players. So what else can we do? I don't see any way back for us now.
Big up Raf and KG inside UVHQ. And look, the thing is, I don't agree with, Raf saying Ten Hag out, obviously, but I'm not naive enough to sit here and say some of the points he makes aren't completely valid. And I think that's important to stress. I think that's important to point out because people always assume, as I said, that people think that things are black and white and there aren't shades of grey involved in all of it. But a lot of the things he's saying are true. The points he makes are very valid and good points. You look at, our performances this season. Have we regressed from last season? I would say ish. I would say because actually, I think if you really want to look at it, we've been playing like this for pretty much the 2023 calendar year, to be honest with you. But the points he makes are valid ones when you say that, if you keep making his signings haven't worked out, there doesn't appear to be unity. There doesn't appear to be like the players are inspired by him anymore. There is a disconnect. But then I agree with what KG says, but when he goes, but the players have to shoulder some of the blame and a lot of it as well. But he doesn't help himself, Erik ten Hag, too. So he's not immune to criticism, too. And I think that, people sometimes maybe see like the Marcel point of view where it's more of sort of a blinded defence of the manager. But I'm not upon that at all. But and in fairness, Ralph said it himself, the thought of sort of blowing it all up and starting up again, that's also really damning, too. But I can appreciate and understand the points that are made there because I think they are valid ones. Absolutely, they're valid ones. I mean, look at Harry Maguire was our best player last night, and again, a credit to him. And in the way that he's come back this season, he was excellent last night for United. I'd say excellent, but he was good. But just think of that situation in general, and this isn't meant as like a backhanded disrespect to Harry Maguire, but the fact that in 2023, away from home against Newcastle, your best player is Harry Maguire. Like, think about what that says. Think about what that says about the players around you. That Harry Maguire's your best player. Like, then you must be looking around going, really? Really? That you Maguire's your best player? What does that say about all of you, about the level of performance you're putting in? That says a lot. I said it earlier on about, Anthony needs to start over Rashford because at least he's tracking back. Really? Is that what we're saying here? Is that how bad that it's got? Yeah. I'll start Hannibal in midfield or whoever, because all of the other midfielders that Ten Hag have signed, which is a lot, they're either injured or they're not playing well. Really? Is that how bad it's got? Kobbie Mainoo's our best midfielder at the moment. He's 18. This was his second Premier League start. Is that how bad it's got? Really? And again, that's really bad. That is really, really bad and really concerning. And it feels like, someone said it in the chat earlier on, Final Destination settings. It does feel like that. It feels like this December is going to be really, really critical. And if Ten Hag makes it out of December, then he might make it to the end of the season. But I look at that Bayern Munich game and I think we've got a chance, but we'll officially be out of the Champions League after that. A few days later, we go to Anfield. That could be really, really nasty. Really, really nasty. And that is massively worrying. Massively concerning. We've got nearly 800 people watching, by the way, guys. Only 111 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. See if we can get it to 300 before we wrap up the show. We've got to get some more reaction. Before we do, the poll's been in the chat for about half an hour, got nearly 350 votes. And the question was, will Ten Hag start Rashford versus Chelsea? 70% of you say yes, he will. And I think the majority, I mean, I can't speak for all of you, but I would think that the majority of you would probably be like, I wouldn't start Rashford, but he will start. And as I've said, if he does start Marcus Rashford, then I think Ten Hag is really asking for it. Because there is just no way, no justifiable way, there is no justification for Marcus Rashford starting against Chelsea. I mean, Eric's tried everything with him this season. Playing him through bad form. Bruno gave him a penalty against Everton to try and get him back into form. On the left, on the right, through the middle. Marcus Rashford this season isn't working. He put in zero effort yesterday. He jogged around the pitch. He had an out. Ten Hag, in terms of, he could have just said, look, Anthony played well against Galatasaray. I want to play players that are playing well. If he picks Rashford against Chelsea, you can't even worry about, or maybe he'll lose Rashford. I think he's lost him anyway, to be honest. You know, like sometimes they go, well, if you take him out, maybe it'll get worse. Maybe you lose the dressing room. I think part of the dressing room's lost as it is. And I think Rashford's lost as it is. So I would say, drop him for the next game. At least you'll get some work rate from Anthony. Can't say the quality will be any better, but it's better than nothing. But do I think that Rashford would start? I can't sit here and say I'd be shocked. Would any of us be shocked? I can't believe Rashford's starting today. No. Very concerning. Very worrying. Let's get some more reaction. Here's what Steph said after the game.
What happened? How are you feeling about this game?
Midfield overran. Defense infiltrated. Attack missing.
Yeah, totally. Put him on a milk carton.
Like, literally. Yeah, exactly. Milk carton. Milk carton settings. I like that. I'm stealing that. Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah. Look, I was tentatively hopeful that we could scrape a win, like a scrappy win.
Almost happened at the end after extra 9 minutes.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, to be fair, aside from Reguilon and Amrabat coming on with fresh legs, towards the end of the second half, towards the end of the game, I do think that Newcastle were on their last legs because their squad is very, very much weakened. Their bench was shocking. They don't really have that squad depth. And so part of me hoped / wanted us to nick like a last minute, like smash and grab, like you said, like a 1-1 or a, yeah. But We couldn't even do that.
What's wrong with Man United?
What's right with them?
Let's try and look at the problems. Let's try and do a quick inquest.
I do think that the manager has to be. I think the manager has to be questioned today. Like the starting 11 when you've got Varane on the bench and you've got Reguilon who can actually play. That's his role.
Left back.
He's a left back, right?
Yeah.
But you're switching players out of position, and you're putting Dalot, who is a right back naturally, as a left back, and you're putting Luke Shaw as a centre back. Don't complicate it. Don't make it that confusing. Also, Reguilon is one of Eric Ten Hag's signings, technically, right? So you're telling me that you're switching player positions and you're neglecting a signing that you made to have him sit on the bench.
Well, we praised the manager. No, we praised the manager last season for playing Shaw there. So what we're saying, we're getting back on our word now.
I mean, yeah, the manager played Shaw last season because Varane and Martinez, Maguire wasn't in form, and we paired Shaw with Varane. Like there was an opportunity today to play Varane and then have Shaw. There was an opportunity for that. And we all know that Ten Hag doesn't want Varane on the left, like playing on the left-hand side. I get that. Maguire wasn't...
But you're happy to... I get what you're saying, because he is happy to see Dalot play out of position as well, though. So why can't...
Exactly. And this is not... I'm sorry, but this is turning into a bit of a habit. Like I say habit or a pattern. Ten Hag playing players out of position. You know, he played when we had Amrabat, whether that was down to other injuries in the squad, but we brought Amrabat to play a particular role, and then we brought him in as a left back. Like, I get that we had injuries, but I kind of it goes back to what we were saying at the full-time whistle. Like, Ten Hag's running out of excuses. We're running out of excuses, like as to why we're playing the way we are and the choices that Eric Ten Hag's making. It's really, really hard to defend the choices that he's making right now. I can't make sense of it.
But then, do you still back this manager? Do you still believe that he can turn it around? And doesn't he just need time, though, to try and work out and have these mistakes?
Okay, so here's my thing, right? Today's the first day, or tonight's game is the first time I've really questioned Eric, like properly questioned Eric Ten Hag.
Yeah.
However, over my dead body is Eric Ten Hag getting the sack before some of these players and the Glazers are out. Over my dead body.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I find Eric Ten Hag's choices questionable right now, I need to see some of these players out the door before the manager leaves. Because like you said, it's a conveyor belt. It literally is a conveyor belt of managers. I mean, are you telling me the common denominator here is the players and the Glazers? That's the common denominator.
Absolutely.
If you're using that logic in everyday life, and you've been through this is our 5th manager since Sir Alex Ferguson, then you do the math.
Big up Steph and KG inside UVHQ, and now we have to turn our attention to the next games. As I mentioned, we've got Chelsea in the week, then we've got Bournemouth at home, and then we get that big week of Bayern Munich and then Liverpool. So look, big December ahead, probably a critical December ahead. Big games ahead against Chelsea in the week, and we'll see how that one goes. A reminder, we are going to be live this evening, full view, as always, 7 p.m. So be sure to join the panel. As always, plenty to discuss coming out of last night's defeat against Newcastle. And big week. That's all I can really say. Big week indeed. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I'll see you all again later on this evening. Have a good Sunday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.